Documentary banned. Screenings trigger war. Will this spread and escalate? That's our top focus on the Newstrack.
Presented by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group. Growing Legacies. Co-presented by Century Ply. Aag se bachai. Co-presented by Macho Hint. Fashion bade aaram se. Co-powered by Samsonite. Tested like Samsonite. Indian Oil. Pehle Indian, phir oil. Nippon India Mutual Fund.
As the nation prepares to celebrate the 74th Republic Day, there are protests at Delhi's Jamia Millia Islamia and at the Jawaharlal Nehru universities by a section of the students seeking the broadcast of a documentary made by a British corporation on the 2002 Gujarat riots that the government insists is biased and displays a colonial mindset. The documentary has led to fissures even politically. Are some in India falling prey to Western propaganda?
After CAA, the next big campus flare-up.
प्रोजेक्टर के साथ इस कैंपस में ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री चलेगी.
Campuses erupt over BBC documentary. Students on the warpath over Modi documentary. Documentary banned. Screenings trigger war. Will this spread and escalate? That's our top focus on the Newstrack.
The battle lines are very clearly drawn. There was stone pelting at the Jawaharlal Nehru University late last night. The administration at the Jamia Millia Islamia University is talking of taking strong action against those who vitiate the academic environment and foment communal tension. International actor, commentator, author Kabir Bedi. He has very strong views on the BBC documentary. He joins me on the Newstrack. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines. A.K. Antony's son resigns from the Congress, slams the party over BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, says he was asked to remove his tweets by those who claim to be champions of free speech. Trinamool Congress leader Saket Gokhale arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in an alleged money laundering case. Gokhale stands accused of misappropriating over 1 crore rupees collected through crowdfunding. Former Karnataka Minister Ramesh Jarkioli faces flack for allegedly pledging 6,000 rupees for every vote towards the BJP. Karnataka Congress files a complaint ruling BJP distances itself from this comment. Sensational claims by former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo claims there was a possibility of a nuclear war after India's Balakot strikes in Pakistan. Indian duo Sania Mirza and Rohan Bopanna stormed into the finals of the mixed doubles at the Australian Open.
The last dance has now been set and the final fourth. And Sania Mirza, it's all smiles, it's all...
Some left-wing students were detained by the police after Jamia Millia Islamia University administration gave a thumbs down to a proposed public screening on campus of a BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the 2002 riots in Gujarat. Students insisted that to protest was a democratic right. The university administration was equally clear. Nothing would be permitted to vitiate the academic atmosphere in the university. Milan Sharma and Akshay Dongre on Ground Zero bring you a top story on the Newstrack.
Another campus flare-up. Delhi's Jamia Millia University erupted on Wednesday over the screening of the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Modi. The screening was scheduled for 6 p.m. Hours before, security was beefed up outside the campus. University gates were shut and students barred from entering that campus.
Well, 7 students from SFI have been detained for protesting outside the Jamia Millia Islamia gates. Heavy police deployment continues around the campus area. The students have been detained, but when they'll be released is a question. And were they only detained because they supported the screening of the controversial BBC documentary, just like the Jawaharlal Nehru students did a night before?
The documentary screening was planned by left-affiliated Students' Federation of India. The Jamia administration said that no permission was sought for the film screening and that it would not be allowed. SFI claimed that at least 4 students had been detained before the screening. Police say the detentions were from creating ruckus outside the university.
As students and especially a public university, हमारा पूरा हक है कि हम यहाँ की public spaces को use कर सके अपना freedom of expression के लिए. कोई भी चीज़ ban हो रही है अगर, that is completely not right.
Jamia's Vice Chancellor has now said that SFI wants to disturb peace on campus and action will be taken against the protesting students. The screening was stalled at Jamia, but the students' fury rages on. Late night, there was a high drama at JNU after power was cut off ahead of the BBC documentary screening. SFI students at Kolkata's presidency have also planned a show on 27 January. With Milan Sharma in New Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
So as Milan was explaining in this report before Jamia Millia Islamia, there had been some stone pelting at the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University late last night. The Students' Union announced there would be screening of this controversial BBC documentary, but the university administration turned down that request. When students insisted they would still go ahead, electricity to the auditorium was cut off. Both the left and the right-wing students have accused each other of violence.
JNU at the heart of another showdown. As students got seated for the screening of the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Modi on Tuesday night, suddenly the campus was plunged into darkness. Students began watching the documentary on their phones, but then with the darkness came the ruckus.
Students are saying that with no electricity inside the campus, the situation is not safe, the conditions are not safe, and they will be in fact going out and sitting at the gates of the university. The JNUSU and the other members of the left groups have also claimed that they have caught some students belonging from the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, but these are just the claims that have been made by the different faction of the students.
Allegations of stone pelting, students seen running in panic, and soon enough a showdown between the SFI and ABVP. Hours after the chaos in the JNU campus, a back and forth has broken out between the two student groups.
कि पत्थरबाजी हो रहा था, आप लोग एफआईआर कराएंगे? ऑब्वियसली एफआईआर कराएंगे, लेकिन बात है इस समय पे स्टूडेंट्स को इवैक्यूएट करनी सबसे ज्यादा अर्जेंट और इमरजेंसी काम है. एफआईआर जेएनयूएसयू करवाएगी. हम ये बाकी मीडिया को बोलना चाहते हैं कि बड़ी बड़ी ईंटें चली है, पत्थरबाजी एबीवीपी के तरफ से हुआ है और प्रशासन और पुलिस द्वारा कोई भी अभी तक रेस्क्यू किसी भी तरीके से इवैक्यूएशन नहीं किया जा रहा है।
अगर यहाँ मीडिया नहीं होती तो मैं पक्का कह सकता हूँ इनकी मॉब लिंचिंग हो गई होती, क्योंकि आप देखिए जिस तरीके की तैयारी है, नीतीश नारायण एसएफआई कैडर हैं, ये यहाँ देखिए क्या कर रहे हैं, झाड़ियों में लाठी डंडे लेकर के।
After the SFI accused ABVP of pelting stones, the right-wing student groups hit back, claiming the clashes were between SFI and outsiders, even releasing images of the alleged perpetrators.
जो तमाम ये लोग जो हैं, ये जेएनयू के अंदर जामिया के लोग, दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के लोग, ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? ये जो चेहरे हैं इसमें से सिर्फ 2 जेएनयू के हैं, बाकी सब ये लोग कौन है? मीडिया के, ये एबीपी का तो एक्टिविस्ट था नहीं, जो भी हम फुटेज दिखा रहे हैं मीडिया के माध्यम
बाहर से लोग हैं।
एग्जैक्टली, ये सब बाहर के हैं।
Many universities and political outfits have now taken a cue from JNU and are holding multiple screenings of the Modi film, with part 2 of the BBC documentary released now. This showdown continues to snowball. Bureau Report, India Today.
And former Union Defence Minister A.K. Antony's son Anil Antony quit all posts in the Congress party after he was reportedly told to delete his tweet on the BBC documentary where he expressed his reservations relying on a foreign media platform to take on the Narendra Modi government. Kerala Governor Arif Mohammad Khan also questioned the timing and the intent of the BBC documentary, while the opposition hit out at the Narendra Modi government for alleged censorship opposing the ban. Rahul Gandhi on his Bharat Jodo Yatra insisted truth had a nasty habit of coming out. Our political bureau gets us more.
A documentary on Prime Minister Modi that's triggered protests and politics. The screening of the BBC documentary triggered chaos and clashes on the Jawaharlal Nehru University campus in Delhi, and with that, politics has been reignited. Opposition leaders cutting across political lines have been lashing out at the government, claiming attempts to censor. And Trinamool MP Mahua Maitra shared part 2 of the documentary as well.
If a certain section of our people want to see the documentary, pelting stones at them, cutting lips, I don't know about these things. I don't even know what the details are. But my counter question is, what is it that makes people in the government so scared about the documentary?
BBC has done one thing. Let that be shown. One portion will explain in a certain way. BJP and other portion will contradict. But let the people decide. We strongly believe that these kind of censorship, that should not be there.
After several screenings in Kerala, some even leading to clashes and violence, Kerala Governor Arif Mohammad Khan questioned the timing of the Modi documentary.
The timing, all these things will have to be taken into consideration. This is the time when India has assumed G20 presidency. Why this particular time has been chosen to bring out this scurrilous material? So you can't ignore these things.
But the Congress has remained steadfast in its stand that there is nothing wrong in airing the documentary for students.
വിദേശ രാജ്യത്തിന് വേറെ രാജ്യത്തിൽ സംഭവിക്കുന്ന ഇന്റേണൽ അഫയേഴ്സിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് ഒന്നും പറയാൻ പാടില്ല എന്ന് നമുക്ക് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു. ആ സ്റ്റാൻഡ് എടുക്കാൻ സാധിക്കില്ല. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് സർക്കാർ ഇത് പബ്ലിക്ലി പ്രഖ്യാപിച്ചൊരു കാര്യമല്ല. ഇന്റേണൽ റിപ്പോർട്ടിനെ അവരതിനെ കണ്ടുപിടിച്ചു. നമ്മുടെ നാഷണൽ സെക്യൂരിറ്റി ഇത്ര ദുർബലമാണോ? നമുക്കൊരു ഡോക്യുമെൻ്ററി നമ്മുടെ നാഷണൽ സെക്യൂരിറ്റി സോവറിറ്റി ത്രെറ്റൻ ചെയ്യാൻ അത് ഞാൻ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല. അത് കുറച്ചൊരു ഇമ്മച്യൂർ സ്റ്റാൻഡായി എനിക്ക് തോന്നി.
Some of them might have gone out of the university, but still it seems that some of them are still there. So those people are trying to create trouble. But I am sure that the authorities will take the required action.
The political firestorm over the Modi documentary has been amplified by multiple screenings across the country, even as the government continues to brand the BBC film as nothing but propaganda and a malicious campaign against Prime Minister Modi. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me on the Newstrack, international author, actor, speaker and commentator Kabir Bedi on this controversy around the BBC documentary. Sir, welcome on India Today. Sir, what is your objection to this BBC documentary?
You know, I am not for bans in general, but I really feel this documentary should be banned for the following reasons. One, they have raked up a matter that's 20 years old, that's settled in the Indian courts, put together some inquiry of theirs, headed by Jack Straw, a man totally discredited as a minister, who was a foreign minister in England, who proclaimed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and sent hundreds of Englishmen to their death based on his false assertions and promises. So this documentary, what does it try to do? It tries basically to discredit the Prime Minister of India, who's been twice elected by handsome majorities of the world's largest democracy.
Okay.
And they're doing it over an issue that has been long settled in Indian courts, and in a way that is so biased that I just don't believe the BBC could do something like this. So I'm totally opposed to this.
So you're accusing the BBC of having a bias. You've also had credibility with the inquiry, with the British inquiry. Why is the credibility of the British probe in question, according to you?
Because Jack Straw himself is in doubt. He's the man who lied to the British public, talking about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, sent England, along with Tony Blair, into the war, killed God knows how many British young men in that war, and discovered no weapons of mass destruction. So he is a discredited witness to start with. Secondly, this is an inquiry conducted by some people sent by him to India. Was it a judicial commission? Was there any official standing to this inquiry? Is it more credible than the decisions reached by the Indian courts?
Okay.
This issue has long been settled by the Indian courts. And, you know, there were two special investigative teams set up by the Supreme Court during Congress tenure to investigate whether Modi was responsible. Both cleared him. And for Jack Straw to stand up and say he believes, and he can say anything he wants. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear. Go on, sir. Strength 5.
He can say anything he wants. But if he is given a star rolling in this British documentary, I question the motives of the BBC in making this, because it's a publicly funded corporation. And they have every responsibility. They have every responsibility to do things for the public good. This neither serves the public good in England nor the public good in India.
Sir, you're questioning the intent of the BBC. You've called BBC's documentary gutter journalism. You've accused them of scavenging for sensationalism. These are very strong words, sir. What prompted this?
It is gutter journalism. It is. And I use those words advisedly. I have great respect for the BBC in many respects, but this documentary, I cannot understand how anyone would air it. You know, this documentary was not made by the BBC. It was made by somebody else and sold to the BBC. Why did the BBC buy a documentary like this that rakes up things 20 years old, long settled, you know, attacking the reputation of a Prime Minister of the largest democracy in the world, 8 years after he's been in power, 20 years after an incident they talk about, which has long been settled here? What is the motivation of the BBC? Why do they do things like this? This only stokes more tension between Hindus and Muslims, and therefore I think it should be banned because it's an incitement to violence, in my opinion. It doesn't do any good for relationships between Hindus and Muslims in England either. And therefore I think the British BBC has been extremely irresponsible in buying and airing a documentary of this nature just for sensationalism. That's why I call it gutter journalism.
Sir, but is there any evidence that it's been bought and not made by them? Are you saying that the intent of this documentary, of the filmmakers, the intent itself is Malafide aimed to foment communal tension in India?
You know, I think there are various institutions in England, including The Guardian, including The Economist, and now perhaps even the BBC, which have always peddled the Congress narrative. If the Congress propaganda cell made this documentary, they could not have made a better documentary in terms of trying to malign the image of Narendra Modi. A lot of people in the West, a lot of intellectuals, even in India, don't like Prime Minister Modi because he's not one of the westernized elite club. And therefore, he's not one of us, as they say. It's true, he's not. He's a man from the heartland of India. He's a man who speaks Hindi with pride. He's a man who has come to terms on his own terms.
Okay.
And therefore, why the BBC makes a documentary like this is beyond me. And the fact that nobody's been punished or fired for making a documentary like this surprises me. They might, they're very clever because in this documentary, while even making all these heinous charges, they keep saying, however, this matter was cleared by the courts, almost a sideline. However, this matter was adjudged to be different. A throwaway. Those are the main points. From the beginning, the first 2 minutes of the documentary say, Modi's rule has been marked by religious turmoil in India. Well, there's not been one major communal riot in the last 8 years, and they talk about religious turmoil in India. I find that offensive. That's why I use such strong language against the BBC. They have acted very irresponsibly, and somebody should lose their jobs in the interest of fair reporting in journalism and belief in the truth of the matter. This is just a hatchet job, a smear decision to smear Prime Minister Modi because somebody has a personal agenda against him. I can't think of any other reason.
So very strong words coming from you. Of course, Congress Party senior leader Rahul Gandhi, he's on his Bharat Jodo Yatra and he said truth has a nasty habit of coming out.
I really don't want to dignify Rahul Gandhi's comments. Since Rahul mentioned Rahul Gandhi, let me say, not a single inquiry was conducted of any importance on the Sikh massacres that took place in Delhi. The people involved in them were roaming freely. The truth has surfaced about that many times, but it has been largely covered up by the Congress government during the years in power. So let's not get into Rahul Gandhi and the Gandhis and who was responsible for that. Let me just say that as far as this documentary is concerned that the BBC made, it is not the truth. And it is not the truth because the Indian Supreme Courts have said so. Every inquiry has said so. Modi is not personally responsible for those riots. And therefore, for Rahul Gandhi or Jack Straw or any other anti-Modi person to say this is their business. Why this is highlighted by the BBC is something that I do not accept and I find offensive.
Okay, because some even within the Congress appear to have had reservations about this BBC documentary and as some have argued, the centuries-old British habit of divide and rule. What do you make of former Defence Minister A.K. Antony's son, Anil Antony, submitting his resignation from all Congress party posts, sir?
Well, he's right. I'm not sure it's divide and rule in this case. I think really there's some hidden agenda to bring down the image of Prime Minister Modi in the year when India has the presidency of the G20. I think there's many people that never liked Prime Minister Modi from the day he came to office.
Okay.
No matter what you tell them of all that he's achieved in India, the schemes he's introduced, the benefits he's brought to the people, the re-election of the man by a landslide, none of this convinces them. They just don't like Modi because he's not one of them. Well, sorry. It's a different India now. We have a Prime Minister that's taking India on a fabulous course in terms of the economic growth of this country. And the one issue that they've had is Godhra. Well, that's settled. Let's not go there anymore. And then they keep talking about religious persecution in India. And yes, there will be some incidents of hotheads, extremists, Hindus who do things, etc. Those are law and order problems. Everything can't be laid at the feet of Narendra Modi and said, you are responsible because that outfit in that state did this to that Muslim. You know, in a country of 1 billion people, there's going to be incidents of all kinds. Why this is highlighted and made the main agenda of the anti-Modi plank shows the bankruptcy of the opposition reasons.
But Kabir Bedi, I mean, you've been watching our broadcast in the past several days. You're looking at what's happening, whether it's Jamia Millia Islamia University today or the Jawaharlal Nehru University late last night or even the Hyderabad University. There are protests by a section of the students. What would you tell those protesting students who are now saying it's their democratic right to protest? They're not even being permitted that, sir.
You know, there's nothing that I can tell them that will change their minds. They don't like Prime Minister Modi. They will try and unite around every single cause that opposes Modi. And this documentary has given them some kind of cause to unite around, saying, oh, freedom of press, and how dare you ban something, and we will see it even if you ban it. I find that I don't understand the logic of that. We as Indians should stand together when the country, Prime Minister is being attacked, when the institutions of the country like the Supreme Court and their judgments are being questioned. We should stand together as Indians and say, wait a minute, this is something we've looked at, we've dealt with, get it over. No, we want to see that documentary because it's freedom of expression. But I'm sorry, I'm not for bans at all. But when bans incite communal violence, when they upset people that to the degree that they might go and do something dangerous, when society and law and order is questioned, then that documentary should be banned. That is the only criteria for banning something if it incites violence.
Okay. Sir, as always, free, frank and fearless. Kabir Bedi for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks. Let me now throw this open. Let's get more voices in. Let's get a wider perspective on the story. Joining me on the Newstrack, Zainab Sikandar is a political analyst. Govind Dangi is an activist of the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad at the JNU as a research scholar. Deepsita Dhar is the All India Joint Secretary of the Students' Federation of India. She's a PhD scholar herself at the JNU. And Vaibhav Agrawal is the chairman of the Yuva India Foundation. But I want to begin by asking you, Zainab Sikandar, you're looking at what's been happening around. You heard Kabir Bedi. He's accused the BBC documentary of being biased. He says the Supreme Court has already settled these issues. The BBC is trying to foment trouble in India.
The BBC is a channel of England, and if this was something done by an Indian channel, I would think that they are stakeholders. I don't understand how BBC would be a stakeholder in India. The bottom line is that the highest court of this country, the Supreme Court, has already, in very clear terms said that Prime Minister Modi, that time CM Modi, had nothing to do with the 2002 Gujarat riots. So I actually don't understand why this is being made so big in India, because when our apex court has already proclaimed Prime Minister Modi as being there having been no evidence against him for the Gujarat riots, I don't think, making the BBC documentary such a central point was a good idea. To be honest, I don't think many would have watched this documentary, but because now it's been banned and there's so much banter around it, more people are curious as to what has been shown. More articles are being written on what is being shown in it. So even if it's been banned, the content of it is being discussed. So I just think the banning was a bad move because more people ended up knowing about it than we would have in general. I just think it was a very knee-jerk reaction. It didn't need the emergency ruling of the new IT laws. It was too soon an action from the Foreign Ministry, from the IT ministry. It didn't need so much of attention.
So
what actually the government has done is, yes, it is an overreaction. The government has brought more attention to this documentary than it would have ideally done.
Vaibhav Agrawal, why ban Let it be broadcast. Let people decide. Why should government decide for the people? Or was this panic overreaction, as Zainab Sikandar puts it?
Okay. Hi, Gaurav. Greetings to all the panel. Now, let me tell you this. I had thought of starting this differently, but I'm gonna. So I have these small chits of my points that I make whenever I come with you on the debate. Okay. So I'm just gonna ask you a small thing. We all remember Babri Masjid, right? When the Babri Masjid was, whatever happened to it.
Okay.
And why did the Congress did two things at that time. A, Congress actually invoked, and there was no IT law at that time. There was nothing at that time. Congress picked it up, pulled up the entire footage of Babri Masjid off the tracks. You've been there. You've been there larger than I have been. So what did Congress do? And Congress hunted down the then journalists who shot the entire demolition, etc., etc. Nobody wants to ask that question. The journalists had covered 1984 riots. There's no documentary on that. The case itself is still running around. I don't know what, 1984, right? So where are we sitting? 24. So 30 years roughly. Yeah, maths. Yeah. So roughly 30 years now. Congress goes around saying, oh, it doesn't matter. Today, Ghulam Nabi Azad, Rahul Gandhi came back and said, I'm sorry if something happened. Doesn't want to take responsibility. Of course, he's the Scion. Of course, he's the Rajkumar. So let me tell you this. Why was it done? It's been done because the government has first-hand intelligence, as far as I understand, that this is for serving sinister objectives of particular people, particular section who wants to create unrest in the country.
Okay.
You know
Let
why?
me quickly get Zainab Sikandar to respond in 30 seconds before I bring in our other guests. So you are saying that the same has been done had been done even earlier. Zainab Sikandar, the intent is to ensure it doesn't lead to a communal flare-up and there are no more riots. Zainab Sikandar, quick response, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, I respect that it is, the intent is that there should be no flare-up. But please understand, the people of India have voted in BJP so that they act differently from the Congress. So if Weber ji is trying to say that, the Congress did this, the whole point of BJP being in power is them being different from the Congress. So if emergency laws are being used right now, to ban a documentary, then they can't, say that, oh, Indira Gandhi did this and, then the Congress can also say she used the emergency for the benefit of the nation. The benefit of the nation is such a loose term. What I'm trying to say is BJP came to power saying we will be different from the Congress. So let's not cite Congress as an example and what they did in 84 or
Fair
what
enough.
they did during Babri
Before
Masjid.
I come back to Vaibhav, I want to quickly bring Dipsita and Dhar also into this conversation. The protesting students, Dipsita, Dhar, do they have more faith in a British documentary than the Supreme Court monitored SIT is a question that has been raised even by Kabir Bedi and some others. They say, and Kabir Bedi just now said, Jack Straw is the same person who said Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, none were found and thousands were killed.
See, it's not very important for us who is the person who has made the documentary. I was listening to Mr. Kabir and I felt so sad when he said that the people who have who are screening this documentary are the people who want that there will be some enmity between the Hindu and Muslims, that this one single documentary is going to increase the enmity between the Hindu and Muslim. I think he's not really following the newspaper. I think he doesn't know about this woman named Bilkis Bano. Bilkis Bano was raped. She was gang raped by the Sangh Parivar's people, by the BJP people. Her daughter was killed. Her whole family was slaughtered.
But do we need the BBC? In India, we are highlighting. We've been highlighting Bilkis Bano's story repeatedly. Why this desperation? I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand why this desperation for a BBC documentary. Bilkis Bano's story has been on India Today and every Indian channel day in and day out. Why this desperation for BBC?
May I?
I'm saying it doesn't matter if it was not made by BBC, if it was made by random people or even by India Today.
India Today has been broadcasting Bilkis Bano and several other stories every day.
The question is, I as an individual, do I have the right to see a movie what I want? A lot of questions were asked during the Kashmiri files. A lot of people thought it's a propaganda. But have we ever seen a single person from the left going and saying that the Kashmiri files should be banned? That the Kashmiri files should not be shown should not be telecasted.
Of course,
we
they
can have
created a
political
ruckus around it.
differences. We can have political differences, but we have never gone and said that it should be
Even
stopped.
if it leads to
Let's
communal
obviously
violence,
judge.
the
It is
left is
same
okay with
people,
communal
it is the same
violence.
people of India who has voted
One
Mr.
second.
Narendra Modi. Why he cannot keep some faith?
Let
on
me
the
bring
same
in
people
Ambuj
and
Mishra.
let them
Let me bring in
decide what
Ambuj
is right
Mishra.
for them.
Ambuj, 74वां गणतंत्र दिवस मना रहा है भारत और छात्रों को अभिव्यक्ति की स्वतंत्रता भी नहीं है, ये कहा जा रहा है. Students are not even being permitted to protest. To protest is a democratic right. Ambuj, वो क्यों नहीं अपना विरोध प्रकट कर सकते, या क्यों नहीं प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के विरुद्ध अगर कोई डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनी है तो वो देख सकते हैं?
Sir, you use the term democracy. So what democracy is, we should understand it very clearly.
Okay.
The most superior legislative body, Supreme Court, has made a clean sheet to a person, and if we are questioning it, so it is question on the Supreme Court as well. And the second thing is a body made by this very constitution has decided something over something, and they are then if these left peoples are not following it, and they say, if they are saying that they follow and they have believe in Indian constitution, then they are faking it. So point is, as you raised key of freedom of speech comes with the law as well. So my basic point is, when our country is going to celebrate 26th Republic Day, very tomorrow,
yes,
and we just got the presidency of presidency of G20,
yes,
and now we are reaching towards the very good positions in the world. Earlier it used to be we used to see other countries for few things, but now whole world is looking towards us for medicine and other things. What they are doing, they are
that's a very interesting
they're doing such kind of things in GNU against India, against the image of the country.
Very interesting point to make out, sir. Let me bring Zainab Sikandar to respond to this.
One more interesting and one more important point I just want to raise. Every time, either it is 2018, either it is 2020, January 2020, or any kind of events, or even 2016, what they do such kind of things. The common student of GNU is being targeted by general public because of their own doing. They are just handful of people.
Interesting point you raised. Let me get Deepsita Dhar to respond to this. Deepsita, you may want to protest, but your protest, can it stop other students from pursuing their education? At Jamia Millia Islamia, for example, the administration said you cannot vitiate the academic environment of the university. Okay, I think ma'am, you're on mute. Ma'am, request you to unmute yourself, please. Okay, give me a moment. While she unmutes,
Gaurav,
we'll try and point that out. Let me get Zainab Sikandar quickly. I want to bring in Zainab Sikandar. Deepshita, we cannot hear you, please. Zainab Sikandar, what do you make of Anil Antony's resignation? He says the party may preach free speech. It clearly doesn't practice it. The Congress, is it not on the same page on this BBC documentary in your view?
Look, when it comes to Congress and its members, there is a different game altogether that's happening there. You have to understand the amount of defections that Congress has seen. It's politically seen at the moment as having a position of disadvantage. I wouldn't want to say, sinking ship, because that'll be too harsh a term. That's why I took a pause. But the reality is, in Congress, I think some of its members try and find reasons, to leave the party, in a manner in which they appear to be on a high horse. And probably, Mr. Anil did that. I don't know what his real intentions are to, part with the party on this particular stand. The reality is, again, like I'm saying, the BBC documentary was firstly aired in England. It was not aired in India. It's just clippings of it were shared in India. I don't even think it would have reached so many people if not for the ban. So anybody else commenting on it, be it a political stakeholder, they're just sort of minting off, how this entire documentary has now been politicized in India. Of course, the opposition will use it against the BJP. They will use anything against the BJP to, get their brownie points, political brownie points.
Okay.
As far as Mr. Anil is concerned, he just wanted to leave the party. And I suppose this was, a very unique point for him, because he showed that he had national interest in mind, because he didn't want his nation to be shown in a bad manner. But we have to point it out that the documentary is on PM Modi, not on India.
Okay. Vaibhav Agrawal, the Modi government is being accused of trying to hide behind this shield of either communal tension, law and order, or security. You heard Dipshita Dhar. She's saying, let people see the documentary. Let people decide. Students we were speaking to earlier today, they said in the 74th year, is our republic so weak that one documentary can shake the foundation, or some BBC documentary can shake the foundation of a strong India?
Gaurav, the Student Federation of India, who has ties with the PFI is a known terrorist organization in India, which is being hunted down by the authorities as we speak. I don't even want to comment what Dipshita Dhar says. She has no credibility. She has no identity for me. That the body she belongs to is involved in fascist movements, and I don't want to comment on that. However,
but sir, on the wider issue, are we scared of, as a nation, are we scared of one documentary?
No, we are not. On the wider issue, let me come back. The government of the day is responsible for the people of the country. Now, let me tell you that some media houses also need to act responsibly. There is no provision for emergency, quote unquote, the word used by most of the media houses, which was invoked by the government to curtail or ban this particular documentary. The Section 16 of the IT Act gives powers, and I will read, the security procedures and practices the central government may, for the purpose of Sections 14 and 15, prescribe the security procedures and practices. Simple as it is, on the basis of the inputs of the intelligence, they've been able to prescribe certain practice that don't show this. As simple as that. So while Zainab's point is very valid, and I would like to tell you that we are different in terms of the Bharatiya Janata Party is absolutely different. Let's not spread the word emergency wrongly, because there is no emergency provision. There is only a provision which Section 16 of the IT Act provides for. That's within the power of the government. So let me clear one point there. Now, the other point is 3 points why this documentary has come at this time. The India Trade-Free Agreement, whoever understands economics will understand the importance of the free trade agreement between India and UK. UK has just come out of the EU, and we want to increase our exports to UK and use UK as a base for our businesses to further export to the Europe. Now, that is how it works for us. So one. Second, Rishi Sunak is an Indian origin Prime Minister. It is absolutely appalling for people like Jack Straw and the likes of him who wants to play around with the Indian origin of that so that the right track does not come in place. Because you notice there has to be sinister Pakistani involvement there, and the intelligence came up today. I've heard in the news that the intelligence has first-hand inputs that the Congress top leaders are in touch with Bilawal Bhutto and other Pakistani ISI people.
If there is illegality, Zainab, if there is illegality, take legal action against them. Why these innuendos? Why these innuendos? That Congress is in touch with so-and-so or so-and-so. Sir, if there is evidence, if there is breakdown of law, or if there is violation of the law, arrest them, prosecute them, produce evidence, jail them. Zainab Sikandar.
Absolutely. I personally don't like to talk on, conjectures, because, what Congress is doing, I think a Congress spokesperson will be more fit to answer.
True.
But yes, as far as Congress is, I again said it is common sense that the opposition will obviously milk this opportunity. The Modi Shah juggernaut is what they need to fight against. So what is the best way, what is the biggest blot on Prime Minister Modi's career? And that is the Gujarat 2002 riots. So anybody trying to speak about it will, it will be highlighted, which is why I said the government, I'll keep on repeating it, the government was ill-advised. Prime Minister Modi was ill-advised by whoever told him to ban this documentary.
Supreme Court SIT, if that says there's no evidence against Modi,
absolutely,
still keep going after him year after year for the opposition and rely on a BBC documentary.
Gaurav,
okay,
just
quick,
one point.
2 seconds.
In the documentary, Teesta Setalwad is coming and saying that Modi did this, Modi did that. You know, Teesta Setalwad for the fact, for the purpose of the fact only.
Okay.
And
Sir, since she's not here to defend herself, sir, since she's not here to defend herself,
siphoned off funds, it's on record.
Okay,
it's not
true,
about defense.
true.
It's on record.
It's an
Siphoned
allegation.
off funds for it was meant for 2002 riots. No,
Yeah.
it's not an allegation. She's been punished for it.
So-
it's been proven already.
Yes,
and
yes.
that's the appeal that is going on in the Supreme Court. So we will. I totally give it to the government of the day to come in and act as per their best interest. And I think country's best interest is in their hands. So while Zainab's point is absolutely valid, probably the way we look at it from a distance, things are different. But probably the way government looks at it, we have to give it to them. They are the ones.
You know,
running the
Ambuj,
government.
last 30
We
seconds,
just
I'm
can't climb on
running out of time on this part of the show. Ambuj, counter a documentary with another documentary. Why with an iron hand?
Sir, I just want to say, being a JNU student, I just want to raise very single point that it's not the matter of documentary. It's all about the law. If some highest judiciary body has raised and given clean chit, so it is questioning the highest legislative,
the highest judicial body, okay, in the country.
And the very interesting point we are actually missing here. Two points are there. Deepshita was saying about the students' will. They do not represent the students' will. They are no one to represent students' will. There is a handful of left students. Basic idea of JNU students is quite different. They have their own idea what they want to do. Second point is, if they represent the will of the student, there was a student who was heart patient. They tried to lynch him. They tried to abduct him, and it was in front of the camera. And everything was seen.
That's for investigations to prove, but you make a fair point. But yes, I've run out of time on this part of the show. Rajdeep Sardesai is coming up next on the news today at night. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. The BBC stands accused of a colonial mindset. Is that actually true? Rajdeep Sardesai with much more on that story on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
Very simple, because if you look at the big picture issues affecting the world last year, one was the US market and the US interest rates, and one was maybe China and its policies and everything else that they might have done wrong. Both have gone past their negativity in some sense, and I think both the markets will be flat to up. China is actually already up a lot. And therefore two external influences which were negative last year, which I think hurt India, are not there. So then we have to create our own negatives, and hopefully we will not create that in this budget by having some capital gains or something. So it should be okay.
Talking about this year, when we started the year, almost everybody seemed to be saying that the first half will be tough, but the second half will be good. Do you agree with that, or is it too much of a consensus for the market?
Too much preciseness, which is not needed. Look at it big picture. In the US, the US market has been negative 2 years in a row, very rarely. In the last 25, 27 years, only once, in 2000 and 2001. Supposedly in the last 100 years, it is negative only 4 times. That 2 consecutive years were negative. So if we look at last year, what was the issue of FII selling, which was in the first half something like $28 billion. It had to be for non-India reasons, because I don't think India did anything specifically bad in the first 6 months last year for us to have a 28 billion outflow. Because in general, foreigners invest. In India, they have only sold net in a calendar year 4 times in the last 20 odd years. And all of our bad years, 2008, 2011, 2018, you could say was India related maybe a little bit, and last year. So one reason would be US interest rates, US inflation, and that is out of the way. And plus minus 2-3 months, the US interest rates would have reached the current target, which is say 5 and 5.25 type. One will be on Feb 1. So in 2-3 months that would be over. The China problem is over. Actually the sad thing has been, which I never imagined, that to get to their rebalance in China, it seems that they are actually taking out money from India, because the flows right now are positive in all of China, Taiwan, Korea, all markets except India. I think that is a little bit of a rebalance, which I never imagined. But I don't think that rebalance that you take out of India to fund other markets, that I don't think is a very longer term thing. So if both those markets are okay, then our external thing is positive to flat.
Chandrabose sir, many congratulations to you regarding this achievement that we have seen. We have met during the Golden Globe Award moment, and now you have the nomination for Oscar. So how are you feeling right now?
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much. I'm feeling very happy, because this is the most prestigious award. As you know, every artist, every writer, every music director dream to reach that stage. So we are 4 steps away from that Oscar trophy. So I'm very happy. I have to thank first Sir Kiravan sir and Rajmouli garu.
It's 2023 and India remains the sole shining star in the global economy. So what lies ahead as the Modi government prepares its last full budget before the 2024 general elections? Join the biggest names in business journalism, decoding the jargon with the biggest newsmakers. From the most credible, in-depth analysis of Budget 2023, tune in for Modinomics 2023 through the month. Only on India Today and Business Today Television, gold standard of business journalism.
Salman shows the question comes on Article 370. There Sanju Verma claims that it's all very well for Rahul Gandhi to say I'm reaching out to Kashmiri Pandits, but the belief is that Article 370, according to the BJP, was an issue which was a major concern. That's been removed, and therefore Kashmiri Pandits feel that they have a government they can dialogue with. They don't feel a sense of separateness, which they felt earlier.
Well, first of all, Rajdeep, I don't really want to get into a tutu beme with Sanju. I think she said everything except she didn't talk about the real issue. The real issue is with our fellow panelist. The real issue is about this delegation of Kashmiri Pandits, and not just the delegation of Kashmiri Pandits, by the way. Kashmiri Pandits who are protesting, I mean, not just these 10 people. There are so many people who are protesting, have been protesting for more than 200 days. And what are they protesting about? What is the immediate? There are many issues that they have, many genuine issues that they have. But the proximate issue is the following, that there is great insecurity for them in the valley. The government has failed to provide the kind of security that would allow them to live their lives freely. And
but that insecurity is not, with due regard, that insecurity is not something post 2014. You see
No, it's not. No. I understand. But what I'm saying is, then once that insecurity comes in, what should a reasonable person do? The reasonable person says, I'm going to protect my family and myself, and I'm going to go to Jammu and say, okay, I'll stay there for some time till the situation improves so that I can go back. But the situation has not improved clearly. Then what does the Lieutenant Governor do? He basically he gives an ultimatum that, look, we're not going to be paying you salaries. If you don't do any work, you won't get it. You won't get paid. It's the kind of heartless thing to say to a community that has suffered so much over the years.
No, so what would you suggest? It's very easy to be in the. Now, 1 minute, Sanju Verma. What would you Sanju Verma, audio down? What would you suggest, Salman Sood?
My suggestion is, first of all, the Lieutenant Governor, and by the way, there's another grievance that the community has about remarks by the Lieutenant Governor, where apparently he told them that they should not be begging. Now, those are not the kinds of words that the Lieutenant Governor should be using against a community that is suffering. An immediate thing that they can do is to release the salaries to these employees who are in Jammu right now, who are not able to go to Srinagar because it has not been safe for them. And then the government has to come and have a dialogue with them and try and understand how safety and security can be ensured to the satisfaction of the Kashmiri Pandit community, especially those government employees who are posted in Kashmir.
It's 2023, and India remains the sole shining star in the global economy. So what lies ahead as the Modi government prepares its last full budget before the 2024 general elections? Join the biggest names in business journalism, decoding the jargon with the biggest newsmakers. From the most credible, in-depth analysis of Budget 2023, tune in for Modinomics 2023 through the month. Only on India Today and Business Today Television, gold standard of business journalism.
It's bigger and even better for RRR as it has now also edged its name at the Oscars 2023. Yes, Natu Natu from this S.S. Rajamouli directorial made it to the final list of nominations in the Best Original category. And the nod in itself proves the craze for the song across the globe.
Natu Natu from RRR.
This foot-tapping number will now be competing with applause by D.N. Warren, Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand, Rihanna's Lift Me Up, and This Is a Life by Ryan Lott. Soon after Natu Natu secured its place in the final list of Best Original Song category, Team RRR shared the good news on social media and best wishes from the industry started pouring in.
And the Golden Globe goes to...
The nomination announcement comes days after Natu Natu became the first Indian song to win the Best Original Song award at the 80th Golden Globes.
Go!
Starring Ram Charan and Junior NTR, high on energy with some fantastic yet tough moves, the song by music director M.M. Keeravani and lyricist Chandra Bose captured the audience's imagination and has already won many international accolades and honors. And now, if Natu Natu brings the Oscar home, it will become the first song from an Indian film to do so. Another good news poured in for the country when All That Breathes also made its way into the final list of Best Documentary Feature Film category.
जब हम पहली चील घर लाए, मैं देर रात जागकर उसे घूरता था। खूंखार रेप्टाइल लगती थी किसी और प्लेनेट से।
This Shaunak Sen directorial revolves around two brothers who try their best to save a bird of prey essential to New Delhi's ecosystem during the time of unrest. Now not two, but India in fact got 3 reasons to celebrate on January 24th as even The Elephant Whisperer secured its place in the top 5 list of Best Documentary Short Film category.
ഇതാ വാ ഇതാ ഇൽബാനി വാ ഇതാ അത് വഴിയില്ലാതാ പറഞ്ഞു
So yes, 2023 Oscars, which is set to take place on March 12th at Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles, is certainly going to be a big one for Indian cinema with 3 big nominations. Entertainment Bureau, India Today.
It's a new fad in India. Chai shops listing the owner's educational qualifications. Meet engineer chaiwala from Uttarakhand's Haldwani. Pankaj Pandey, a 28-year-old diploma holder in mechanical engineering, is a hit in the town.
मैंने मैकेनिकल से पॉलिटेक्निक किया हुआ है गवर्नमेंट पॉलिटेक्निक गरूर से, तो उसके साथ साथ मैं अपनी जेई के लिए तैयारी भी करता रहता हूँ, जूनियर इंजीनियर के एग्जाम्स के लिए। और जो मेरा मेन जो विजन है वो इसी को आगे लेके जाना है, इंजीनियर चाय वाले को।
Pandey used to work at a call center in Noida earlier. While he is proud to run a tea shop, he is also attempting to clear entrance exams for further education.
अपकमिंग जो भी जेई के एग्जाम्स होंगे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के मैकेनिकल के लिए, उनकी तैयारी कर रहा हूँ। और लेकिन मैकेनिकल की तो वैसे वैकेंसी निकलना बहुत कम हो चुका है, कई सारे डिपार्टमेंट तो बहुत बिल्कुल ख़त्म ही कर दी है वैकेंसी, लेकिन फिर भी एक उम्मीद है।
Pandey's chai is popular among locals and tourists alike.
कुछ ना कुछ तो करना ही है, अच्छा कर रखा है उनने, यहाँ पे चाय की दुकान खोल दी है और बहुत बढ़िया चाय अच्छी लग रही है, टेस्ट बहुत है।
बेरोजगारी बहुत है सर आजकल, इसलिए भैया ने अपना खोल लगा छोटा मोटा काम, ये बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है। यहाँ पर इनका रेगुलर लगाते हैं सर, सुबह 4 से 9 बजे तक लगाते हैं।
Pankaj Pandey opens his tea stall every evening for 2 hours. Bureau Report, India Today.
Tonight at 9 p.m. on the news today with me, Rajdeep Sardesai, as the BBC releases the second part of its contentious Modi documentary. Campuses from JNU to Kerala via Hyderabad and Kolkata are being divided between left and right over the screening of the documentary. Is the BBC guilty of a colonial mindset, or is the Indian response smacking of authoritarianism? That's going to be a talking point on the news today. Also on the show, Dera preacher Ram Rahim Singh is in the eye of a controversy once again. Convicted for rape and murder, now his online satsangs while on parole are attracting BJP leaders, among others in Haryana. That's going to be another talking point on the news today. All that and much more on the news today. News without the noise.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by Panasonic, create today, enrich tomorrow. Co-powered by the bold look of Cola. Co-powered by Samsonite, tested like Samsonite. Indian Oil, pehle Indian, phir oil.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination just ahead of Republic Day. Happy Republic Day in advance. But as always, we will bring you the news, the newsmakers, the talking points. Campus face off over the Modi documentary. Has the screening ban exposed authoritarianism in this country, or is the BBC guilty of a colonial mindset? Shashi Tharoor is among my special guests tonight. He joins me in a moment. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. A report by a European research agency claiming stock manipulation by the Adani Group spooks the stock market. Sensex takes a 770-point hit. Adani company refutes the allegations, calls the report malicious and baseless. A screening of a BBC Modi series, docu-series is blocked in Jamia Millia University campus. Protesting students clash with police. 13 detained. This a day after Jawaharlal Nehru University administration shut off electricity to prevent the screening. Former Congress leader and former Union Minister A.K. Antony's son resigns from the party a day after hitting out at the party over a BBC documentary over Prime Minister Modi. Anil Antony was handling the social media wing in Kerala. A former Karnataka minister, Ramesh Jarkioli, faces flack for allegedly pledging 6,000 rupees for every vote towards the BJP. Karnataka Congress files a complaint ruling BJP forced to distance itself. TMC spokesperson Saket Gokhale arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. Gokhale accused of misappropriating 1.07 crore rupees collected through crowdfunding. The TMC says this is more evidence of vendetta. A Telangana High Court raps Chief Minister KCR for a no Republic Day parade celebration, directs KCR to follow the centre's rules. Despite protests across the country, Shah Rukh Khan's blockbuster film Pathan takes the box office by storm, becomes the biggest ever opening for a Hindi film. And the BCCI announces 5 teams for the first ever women's IPL. Adani Sports Line buys the Ahmedabad